Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
Let's talk about budgeting. Where do you start?
So, the first thing you got to do is work through hindrances to being able to talk about budgeting. And we have a video we just shared with you all about that. So, check that out first.
You know, you may need an advisor to help you in your specific case. We're going to give you some helpful ideas, though, to consider getting started.
You may need third party help, like some marital help, maybe, or other help to get going as well.
In Luke chapter 16, Jesus said, "If you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches?" We're seeing a concept here that we can show faithfulness to God in how we handle our money.
We would recommend RamseySolutions.com, Dave Ramsey's website. There are others. You may have your own personal preference, but come up with a rough draft based on some of these recommended percentages for what you would spend in the various categories.
So we want to know first, where is our money actually going? You might want to look at a couple of months of your spending and just see where is your money going.
But what if you're struggling with trust issues, fear related to money? These may be related to past relationships where somebody just really messed up your trust factor. Or maybe something happened with your spouse and you may need to approach this a little differently.
You know, we want to do what we do in faith. So if you're not comfortable, if you don't feel ready for any certain area that you're making a movement in, you need to wait and do it when you know I'm comfortable with this.
So, what are you believing for, and how will you know when you get there? Let's exercise our faith as we heal in some of these areas.
So we want to be careful in the way we come across in this, that we're not being pushy with our spouse, because that can erode trust.
Consider also that when we don't give access, and say our spouse is a stay at home mom, we can create additional issues where this person is sharing responsibility with us but no income of their own.
So getting started is not a big leap from where you are to where you want to go. It may just be made up of a lot of little steps. There's a great saying that says a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
What about a phase approach? What if phase one is, let's just talk about what our hindrances are and what needs to shift for me?
So the next phase might be making a pretend budget. You're not actually going to do it, but you're just seeing, if we did this, here's what this might feel like.
You might consider a phase three could look like, is there a small percentage that I do feel I could share access to just to kind of give it a try? And then evaluate, did we both do what we said we would do?
You know, and the next phase might be just seeing, can you increase a little bit more in what you're doing, and making changes as you feel comfortable with that.
Right, and discussing what needs to happen to move this up to another phase.
So in the marriage, you know, who's going to make the budget?
It may be the one who's passionate or skilled about budgeting for you.
And it'd be great if you could both have a hand in it together.
But what if you can't? That's okay too, because you could both independently, individually come up with a budget plan.
So you want to share your budget ideas with your spouse. You might present, here's what I'm thinking, and then your spouse present, here's what I'm thinking, and then make adjustments accordingly.
So what if you can't actually talk that through? You could swap budget plan ideas and then write comments about the various pieces of adjustments that you have in mind. Swap again, give those back to each other, and continue back and forth. Can you come up with something that's closer to we?
Yeah. Determine your total income. You want to find out, you know, what is the frequency of your income? Do you have it come in weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly?
So is it fixed or fluctuating? Go with your minimum expected amount if it fluctuates.
You want to identify your expenses. And right off the top, we want to be giving 10% of our income to God in our tithes. In Malachi chapter 3 and verse 10, he said that he would open up windows of heaven to us.
If you're not already doing that, you might pray about that and see how you feel about implementing that.
Yeah, you want to make a list of what your expenses are. What are your fixed expenses? You may have a mortgage payment, you may have a car payment that's the same, and other areas may be changing.
So total all of your expenses, subtract that from income. What are the results?
Are you even? Are you spending more than you have coming in, or are you spending less than you have coming in?
The goal is a zero balance. Every dollar needs to have a name on it.
So we want to try to reduce our expenses. Our goal is to free up money.
Are you spending within your means? Does your budget fall within those recommended percentages or close, or you're okay with it at least?
We want to accept where we are and not just have an eye on where we want to be.
Right. So when we look at our necessities, we've got fixed, we've got fluctuating, food, clothing, shelter, transportation. Are they very basic? Are we more moderate? Are we excessive on any of these?
Can any of these expenses be dropped or reduced? We may need to look at, do we need to downsize on our house? Do we need to get rid of this vehicle, get a less expensive one? What kind of changes do we need to make?
Do we need to eat out less or do more food prep, shop for better prices for insurance or groceries, reduce travel or gas?
Do we need to add another source of income, maybe get a side job?
What do we do with our extra money once we've reduced debt to kind of make that happen? We want to consider a starter emergency fund of maybe $1,000 to avoid further debt.
We want to look at reducing our debt, and our debt is forcing our income to cover past expenses.
But if we're debt free, it allows our income to cover present expenses and plan for the future.
So Debt Snowball is a great strategy for reducing your debt. This is where you would pick your smallest debt, you would pay that off, then to take the money that you paid it off with and the amount that you of your payment, apply it toward your next debt, and then proceed through all of your debt until it's all paid off.
And of course, you're still making minimum payments during this phase.
Right, right.
Hopefully. There are a lot of people that have advice on all of that as well, more so than here. But there's other ways you might need to spend your extra money, and you want to come together on that.
So you might want to be setting aside for upcoming expenses that you might expect. You may have to replace a car. If you could be setting money aside for college or for retirement.
You might want to start talking about investments at some point once you're debt free.
In Colossians chapter 3, it says, whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord, not unto men, knowing that of the Lord you shall receive your reward.
The way we take care of God, what God gives us, whether it's money or relationships, is an expression of our surrender to Him.
And we hope that these ideas that we presented today will give you an idea of how to have a together plan regarding your money.